The year is 2025 and F1 is bloody back, baby. With so many questions to ask, all will be answered in the upcoming year. But here is everything you need to know about the Australian Grand Prix for 2025. Now, there is actually some breaking news that has come out just as I've been recording this video, and that is Piastri has signed a new multi-year contract extension with McLaren. Now, his contract was going to end at the end of 2026, and now, literally the wording McLaren are using is Oscar Piastri plus McLaren equals locked in for the foreseeable. So this contract is going to run for quite some time, which is really good for McLaren to lock down a brilliant driver like Piastri before all the crazy regulation changes and driver swaps that will inevitably happen. But brilliant news for Piastri, and just before his home Grand Prix, the hype is going to get even more for him. Wow, I really think he can definitely deliver. Knowing McLaren definitely want him in that seat as well, such a massive boost to his confidence. So coming into Australia, as it's the first race of the season, it is really hard to see exactly where the grid is going to be. But a great way to get a bit more data on this whole situation is by looking at the practice sessions. The practice sessions for this weekend are going to be quite crucial. Now, the big one will be FP2, as FP2 tends to be when teams do their qualifying runs or just more general runs that are truer to their pace, considering FP1 and FP3 are still good to go off a little bit, but there's a lot more of just car setup a lot of the time, figuring out what they want from the car. So yes, I'd keep an eye on them, but if you want one session not to miss out on before qualifying and the race, it is definitely FP2. So with this all done, let's head over to the ZachGP weather report. Good morning, Melbourne. It is ZachGP, your weatherman. And crikey, mate, we're going to get some high temperatures. As on the Friday for FP1 and FP2, we'll have temperatures of around 29 degrees for both of these sessions. And on the Saturday, it's going to be even warmer, with FP3 looking like it could be around 33 degrees and the qualifying session being a whopping 37 degrees. So you're going to need some sunglasses and potentially a big old hat. However, feast your eyes on the Sunday weather report, as it looks like we could be getting some rain for the Grand Prix, as the race starts at 3 PM local time and there is expected rain the entire Sunday. So we could have a cooler track which could help Mercedes if it's very much like their 2024 car, and we could also get a very slippery track. And as we all know, that will bring the cars closer to each other, so we could be in for an incredible race, with potentially Verstappen, if that Red Bull isn't that good, back into consideration. So it really is anyone's guess for this race if it does rain on Sunday. But that is your weather report, so back to you in the studio. So now we move on to the preseason testing data and some key elements you might need to know from some past Grand Prix from the Australian Grand Prix. So from preseason testing, a very quick rundown of things. McLaren look good on the run pace. The top four still looks the same of Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari and Mercedes. Anyone's guess as actually where they are. Williams look like the biggest surprise, potentially being the 5th fastest car, and Aston Martin do not look good. Potentially they could build up to this season, but my money's on them not being very good in Melbourne. But for the rest of the field, it's quite a bit of an unknown, as Haas didn't really show any of their pace that they had. Sauber had quite a few issues. I mean, I'm still expecting them to be at the back. But the likes of Alpine, Racing Bulls, Aston Martin, Williams, it generally could be anyone who is that 5th fastest car. Now, we have been racing in Melbourne for quite some time, and what is quite exciting, even though Hamilton hasn't had the best of qualifying sessions in the last few years over at Mercedes, with him being in his new team of Ferrari and him having a whopping 8 pole positions at this circuit, do not write off Hamilton to get that pole position, as when he does get the car, we know he can. So if Ferrari really have delivered, Hamilton looks very spicy, but so does his teammate Charles Leclerc. As we know, he's very good. He's put it on pole around here as well. Another person to look out for is obviously race winner last season, Carlos Sainz. Now in the Williams, even if Williams don't look immaculate, I'm expecting him to potentially still get into the top 10, as we know he is brilliant around this track, as it's very hard to beat Leclerc, and he did so. And keep an eye out on the constructor of Ferrari, as they got the 1-2 here last season. Now again, we don't know what the car's going to be like around here, but 2024 is the best thing we have to go off. However, McLaren right behind them, as Norris came 3rd last season, and with McLaren's data showing that they could potentially be the fastest and Norris winning in Abu Dhabi, they are most likely the favourites coming into Melbourne. So I'm very much expecting this weekend to be a massive showdown between the top two of Ferrari and McLaren. However, do not write out Red Bull, especially Max Verstappen, if it does rain on the Sunday. Brazil 2024, we saw exactly what he could do there. And even Mercedes, as yes, qualifying could be an issue with all of those massive temperatures of 37 degrees. But if it does get cooler, they could have some brilliant race pace. Again though, we don't really know if their car's going to work in cooler tracks. However, we saw a glimpse of it in Bahrain testing. Again, no, that's not really good enough to go off. So we'll have to see exactly what they can do. And if it is cooler on a Sunday, we'll potentially see exactly that. Then in other news, we of course have quite a few Australian drivers on the grid at the minute. But the main one this season definitely has to be Oscar Piastri. And bear in mind, no one has ever technically been on the podium for their home Grand Prix in Australia, as Daniel Ricciardo did get second place once. However, he got disqualified later. So Oscar Piastri has the chance to potentially get a podium this weekend, as if McLaren really are as fast as they looked, he definitely will be fighting for those podium spots, potentially even a race win. So Oscar Piastri, another one to have a very close look at, and expect him to get driver of the day if he does get podiums or a race win, as this is such a historical moment for Australia if he does. Then finally, like I mentioned, I'll reiterate it again, FP2 is so crucial, especially into finding out a sort of order that we can go off. It really is the best of what we can go around. FP2 results are going to be better than pre-season testing and better than using Abu Dhabi stats. So keep an eye on that. I very much recommend watching FP2 if you have the time. Then finally, for the technical side of this video, we have a few words from the drivers this week. We have Norris predicting it will be a very tight grid. I mean, he's just saying, I think what everyone already agreed on. Hulkenberg expects great things from Bortoleto, so I'm really excited to see if he can come out the gates very quickly in Australia. And then Verstappen has mentioned that there are still some big issues at Red Bull. So potentially it could be a slow burner this season for Red Bull, potentially doing what McLaren did in 2024, where they start off a bit more rough, they get to know the car a bit more. However, it's a little bit daunting, as potentially if they're not fast enough, they might just look over to 2026, as development for that season will be crucial. And now for my favourite part of the video, and this is ZachGP's predictions. Now we have to start off with the big one, which will be my forfeit predictions. If Pierre Gasly does not get points in Australia, I will make a wheel of death with crazy ingredients, and I will pick 3 of these ingredients and make a drink out of it, and I will have to drink the entire thing. So dear God, I hope that does not happen. But that is the big prediction of the weekend. Now, for the more normal predictions of this weekend, race winner, I am going for Lando Norris. I really do think he's going to start the season off well. He has to, if he wants any chance of fighting for that championship. However, this is very much going off the case that he can qualify first and then keep it on the race. If it rains, it's going to be very difficult and it could be close. I'm almost tempted to go for Verstappen, but I'm going to go with Norris for now. But yeah, Verstappen very much is also a great option for this weekend, considering it potentially could be rainy. But I'm going to stick with Lando Norris on the race win. Who is going to come last? Well, sadly for my boy Bortoleto, I think he will do good in Sauber terms, but Bortoleto is going to come last. And I'm not talking about DNFs, okay? So if someone DNFs, like bloody, I don't know, George Russell, he always DNFs here, and he gets P20, I'm not talking about P20, I'm talking about the last of the finishers, which will be Bortoleto. If Bortoleto DNFs, well, I'll give myself half a point. Who knows? But finally, for the biggest surprise of Melbourne, I have gone for Liam Lawson. I really do think he's going to show everyone why he deserved that Red Bull seat. And my God, he really bloody has to. So I'm hoping he does. And I think he's going to get a top 6 result. Biggest surprise, because I don't think anyone's really got him in their top 6. I think a lot of people think he might finish like 7th or 8th. But for me, Liam Lawson's definitely getting top 6. But those are my predictions for the Melbourne Grand Prix this weekend. And then finally, to finish off the video, we're going to be doing a track overview with the ZachGP analyst.
The Australian GP has 14 turns, 58 laps, and was first used in F1 in 1996 with 4 DRS zones. With the improved circuit layout from last season, there is sure to be plenty of action around this circuit.
Thank you very much, Bear. And that is all she wrote for everything you need to know for the Australian Grand Prix. Keep an eye out on the upcoming days for some more stories, especially on the F1 websites. They normally bring out some good articles and 100% will get some more talk from the drivers. Oh, I'm just so happy F1 is back. I guess you can see how excited I am. Comment down below your predictions for Australia. Hope you all enjoyed, and for the upcoming races, once upgrades start coming, I will be putting upgrades into this videos as well, but considering it's the first races, I guess pre-season testing was that position for now. But thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all later. Like and subscribe, and take care.